without further ado, Kaelig, you can take it away.
Hello, Maria. Yeah, when Maria invited me, I said, anything for you, Maria. Yeah, I've met so many awesome people at Design Systems Wednesday, either in person or a little bit online during the lockdowns as well. So very thankful. Hello, chat. We're going to try something different today. No slide deck, just me talking to you, and let's see how this goes. So before we dive in, I want to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Those times are really tough. Lots of layoffs that I've heard of in various teams. I work at Netlify. We've been affected as well. But in fact, I've decided to refocus this talk a little bit to reflect our current economic climate. Initially, I wanted to address challenges that small to medium teams encounter. But if your team's been slimmed down recently, or if you're a mid to large companies navigating those kind of headcount challenges, parts of this talk should also speak to you. Now, here's why I care about building design systems that have an impact at any scale. I've been very lucky over the course of my career to be working on design systems at very, very teeny tiny scale companies, all the way up to very well-funded design system teams at S&P 500 companies and consulting with a few as well. So. And now I'm back at a much smaller company. And let me tell you, I've learned a lot through my mistakes. I have realized that best of class practices that worked at very large scale can actually be counterproductive when you're running way lean. So what I want to explore today is what best practices and myths you should question so you don't end up building things you don't need or will regret building along the way. So let me take you back to the days when design systems aren't on everybody's minds. We're reinventing the wheel with every project. Designers and developers speak different languages. When looking at design guidance, we're sifting through outdated wikis that frankly are more like best practice graveyards and are often curated by print-focused branding teams. So our design tools at the time have no concept of what a component is at all. And our front-end toolchain is often tied to a heavy backend, and our code is full of business logic. And the luckiest of us may have had an HTML and CSS style guide, but yeah, pretty grim. Then around 2015, we're in an era of industry giants open sourcing their design systems. People like Brad Frost advocating for atomic design, Gina popularizing design tokens. Conferences start to emerge on the topic, like DSW as well, those kind of events. The tool makers are looking at what these big companies are doing, and we even see startups productizing these approaches. Fast forward to today, and it's very hard to ignore design systems. Getting buy-in is a problem that's pretty much behind us at a lot of companies. It's more of a question of when are we going to do a design system than are we going to do a design system? Our entire tool chain is helping us share knowledge, achieve component-based thinking, with composability, atomic design in mind. Our front-end and design tools are more interconnected than ever, and we just have so much power at our fingertips. Despite that huge shift in our tooling and design system acceptance landscape, a lot of teams are still looking to those big companies that have those massive, beautiful examples that served large-scale needs in an era where design systems needed to market themselves and convince stakeholders and achieve adoption. So today, I want to talk about what those pioneering design systems teams achieved that it might not be relevant to you. For the design leaders in the room, we'll discuss how to be strategic about how much design system you actually need. And I put design system in quotes because it can mean many different things based on who you ask. This is not new as a topic. This is something that Diana Mauner at GitHub, Gina, and last year Stephen Hay have they spoke about really well. So go and watch their talks as well. And what I want to add is a bit of color and add that it actually might be harmful to your users to go too deep on design systems. And I'll explain a bit more what I mean by that. Towards the end, if as a designer you've been feeling boxed in by your current system and you want to push those boundaries, I'll share some tips on how to be a good rebel, to put it a certain way. Quick disclaimer before I start. This talk has a huge bias towards web. I haven't worked on design systems that were serving various use cases like Spotify, for example, that will run on your fridge, in your car, on various, maybe on, many platforms. So if you're mostly building for other platforms than web, do take this talk with a huge pinch of salt. Your mileage may vary. All this to say, wherever you are on your design system journey, you're not alone and skepticism is healthy. So yeah, let's dive in. And if you've got some thoughts, chat, put them. I've got the chat open right there. So, okay, so let's start with a fun one. The name of your design system. You know, we've all been there, burning the midnight oil, trying to come up with the perfect name. And I see in chat there was a discussion earlier about this, about Gestalt, I think, and Gestalt. Love the name, but how long did it take to get to that name? Don't you have anything better to do? So a catchy name can help with marketing, and in the right context, it should also signal to teams that they can opt into using your design system at their own pace without feeling shamed into doing so. And it worked really well for Google with Material and Shopify with Polaris. Great marketing around it. But remember, they're productizing their design system at a scale that is huge. And are you? On the other end of the spectrum, Morgan Pang from Societe Generale shared a really interesting take on this. They named their design system the Societe Generale Design System. And I love that. No fancy code names that could be debated. And it sends a clear message. This is the company design system. Are you in or are you out? I mean, who are you not to use the design system that's literally named after the company you work for? Of course, this is not always appropriate, but this could save your team dozens of hours in the process. So best practice number one, or kind of myth around naming number one that I see a lot of teams struggle with. Let's move on from semantics to actual components. Do you need to build your component library from scratch? I know it's tempting to think that to perfectly reflect your brand's unique snowflakiness, you do need that. But let's get real. Crafting components isn't what sets your business apart, especially if you're at a pre-market fit startup or a small team building a kind of a new product. So here's a pro tip. Leverage existing solutions. I wouldn't have said that in the times of Bootstrap themes and jQuery plugins, but today's off-the-shelf solutions are just amazing. I can also say that for icons, they can be a massive time sink. I've been on teams spending a lot of time building icons and optimizing them and reviewing them. And so why not use a pre-existing icon library and extend it to meet your needs? Same goes for headless components. The point is to be smart about where you're going to invest your energy, especially when resources are tight, because at the end of the day, it's not about the base components. It's about what you do with them and how you skin them and how you can make them fit your brand. And chances are your company, if it's less than 5 years old, you already have a design UI kit, maybe in Figma, maybe in Sketch. because those tools now let us build them so easily. So why wouldn't we? And likewise, I see so many teams use Storybook to document all component variants as they build the features. And that's amazing. We were dreaming of these setups 10 years ago. And yeah, only large team could afford to build and maintain that kind of tooling before. And now this is baked into our processes. So after discussing the myth of needing that custom component library that's perfect for your needs, let's tackle another sacred cow, using consistency as the end-all, be-all goal for design systems. I think Amy Hupe, and I'm going to quote her a little bit later as well, nailed it when she said, how much consistency is desirable and what we want to standardize is up for grabs. Now, you might think, hey, consistency is good, right? But let's talk about the dark side of too much consistency. I've heard engineering teams actually push back on building features because the design solution wasn't part of the existing design system. And that looks like bureaucratic red tape to me. Like, it's not in the design system. It's not going to be consistent. Let's just use the design system instead. And I think Hector just showed some interesting ways that you can misuse the design system for consistency with that kind of audio interface that he showed in a previous talk. Yeah, so I love that. That's such a great example. So yeah, you might end up stifling innovation, delaying time to market, or even worse, you can like we showed in the previous talk, you can square peg solutions into those round holes, and that's not good for the user experience and the overall product offering that you have. Earlier today, also another talk, Dan Moll brought up the idea of using the 80-20 rule as a kind of a remedy for the consistency trap. I think it's a solid framework that can allow that kind of wiggle room. So definitely agree with that. And then you can kind of enable that innovation while maintaining a decent level of consistency. Because I think he mentioned that you never get to 100% anyway. And so 80-20, you're not going to derail your UI into chaos, and yeah, you'll get a really good balance there. So, and also, and it's something that I can discuss about, like how we thought about this at Shopify, but essentially your design system, you want it to be a guide and not a straitjacket, like a blueprint that people have to absolutely follow. Next, let's sift through to another closely related topic that often trips teams up: the urge to document everything. Now, documentation can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, provides clarity and guidelines. On the other, it grants authority to whatever is written down. So if you're documenting half-baked ideas or concepts, you're setting a trap for teams who might follow these guidelines blindly. And even though we'll say folks don't read the docs, some kind of do. And then if they have that kind of reference in that design system Bible that you gave them, that carries power. And so I want to quote Amy again for her wisdom. Consistency is only valuable if we standardize things to a good quality. And scaling things is only valuable if they're actually worth reproducing. And the same logic goes for documentation. So if you're going to document something, make sure it's worth documenting. And if you're unsure, slap a big old disclaimer on it to indicate that maybe your level of confidence about this information is not as high as some other parts of your documentation. So in a sense, don't let your documentation become another layer of bureaucracy that teams kind of can wield and as a best practice when it actually might not be. Make it a tool that empowers rather than restricts, and yeah, be mindful of the authority that comes with the written word. This naturally brings us to the next topic, the Allure. I don't even know how to pronounce this I know how to write it, I don't know how to pronounce it, of creating this single source of truth for your design system, this hub, this catalog of all things design. So as your small team is going to evolve into multiple departments, think marketing, product design, kind of getting their own lanes, you'll notice fragmentation in guidelines, best practices. Even sometimes your design language can differ from your marketing side to your product and so on. So when you're small and everyone knows everyone, it's not the end of the world to manually copy paste your CSS variables and JavaScript, all your tokens across different repos. Now, don't get me wrong. Having a centralized hub can be immensely valuable. I've worked on a few and very proud of having done so. But here's the kicker: as you scale your design system efforts, so do your challenges. Once you've set up this single source of truth, you're catering to a broader audience with more needs and varied paces of product development. So, for example, marketing and product might work at a different pace. So unless you have a robust government system, a funded team that you know is going to be here for a while, you're going to find yourself resorting to building more and more custom tooling just to redistribute this information later on. So what I've seen is consolidation, and then, oh, wait, that's another thing that people have to consult when they're building. Let's meet them where they are. And then you push that back into VS Code, Figma, whatever else is in your toolbox. And so you have to build tooling for that. And that adds yet another layer of overhead for the guardians of your truth. So maybe it's time to relax a bit. I've seen teams lead by examples in their own department and do their own thing, and then show off their wins in a company-wide demo. And then other teams aligned with them because they saw that great work and value in what they were doing. So sometimes fragmentation can also be dealt with, and eventual alignment can happen. And don't underestimate the power of simpler solutions. I was talking to Amy Lee yesterday, who's going to be talking at ClarityConf, and she suggested something as straightforward as a central Slack channel that could serve as a touch point for inspiration, updates, asset locations, just random documentation needs, etc. Instead of having this whole entire hub, maybe a Slack channel can do for a while. I'm talking about small teams once again. If you have hundreds of designers, don't maybe have a Slack channel, but on top of all the other things. So in short, while a single source of truth can be great on paper, it brings its own set of challenges, overheads. So consider what suits your team scale and the culture as well before you dive headfirst into what seems like this great solution that would work at all scales. All right, as promised, let's wrap up by talking about some of the rebel tactics for you design systems users. Those folks who, if you've ever felt boxed in by your design system, this is for you. So let's push some boundaries. Here I want to quote John Gall's critique of design systems in Systemantics, also called the Systems Bible. I think it's got multiple titles. And he drops a couple of gems here. The first one is, failure to function as expected is an intrinsic feature of the systems. And the second one, the real world is what is reported to the system. So if you read between the lines here, goal is basically giving you permission to question the system because that's inherent to how systems work. So where do you start? So first, I would say understand the system you're dealing with. Anticipate the limitations, the shortcomings, because they will exist. Again, if failure to function is expected, then come with that kind of sentiment that, hey, the system is not going to give you everything, and you're going to have to deal with that. Then once you've got a good grasp, you can start pushing those boundaries. And this is where this is crucial. Don't go rogue and do this in isolation. Operating in the shadows might feel liberating in the short terms, but eventually your design system descent will catch up with you, and it's not going to be great. And because the design system team might look at this and see it as lazy rebellion or ignorance of something you might have done outside of the boundaries of the system because you didn't read the docs or you didn't understand the system. And that's not going to help you change the system for the better. So Goal argues that no one can afford to be ignorant of how systems work. But let's be realistic. Not everyone working on delivering a product vision has the luxury to be a system theorist. And I think the problem that was referred to earlier, like we don't have enough systems thinkers in design systems. Yeah, that's probably also a corollary here. So what's more important is understanding your user needs, because you're the one interfacing with them as a designer, as a product developer, not the design system team that's sitting in another department and might not be as close to you, to your users as you. So be smart about your rebellion. Engage with the design system custodians, share your rationale, and most importantly, make decisions based on the needs of your users. Be that advocate, because ultimately the most effective system is the one that evolves with the genuine needs of the people it serves. So what's the bottom line here? I think that every time you decide to go bespoke with your design system, every time you document something, know you're committing to its long-term care and feeding, maintenance. So what you see from these big, well-funded design system teams might look shiny, but it's probably not for you and could actually be a hindrance to your product development lifecycle. So for those of you in smaller teams, let's flip the script. Let's turn that fear of missing out into the joy of missing out. FOMO into JOMO. So design systems have become so ubiquitous that you can seamlessly integrate them into your existing workflows. We're living in that golden age of design and development tools. Again, stuff we could only dream of a decade ago. And you can use that to your advantage, because those teams, they have a lot of legacy stuff that they've built that they have to deal with now. So especially in those challenging times, you can achieve a ton with very minimal investment. So resist the urge of over-engineering solutions, and inadvertently you're signing up for a maintenance nightmare. And sometimes less really is more. So finally, you're not alone in this journey. Join the design system Slack, hang out with the community thanks to ds.events. And thank you, chat. If you've got thoughts or questions, let's keep that conversation going in the chat and on Slack. Cheers.